Welcome to another Player 2 E3 2021 conference recap. I'm joined by Mr. Ryan Betson, or I should, call you by your real name, Mr. Ubisoft Betson. We're talking Ubisoft today. Ryan, thanks for coming aboard to share all your thoughts on their E3 2021 conference. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No worries, man. Thanks for the invite. Like the only E3 thing that I'm doing this year. I kind of like stayed away from like PlayStation aren't there. I don't really need to think about it. And you're like, hey man, just come talk Ubisoft. And I was like, you know what? Why not?
Just whispered some sweet nothings in your ear, and here you are.
That's pretty much what went down. That's pretty much what went down. But like, I feel that I should when I like to say Ryan Ubisoft Betson. It's sort of the fact I love the game. Maybe not so much their business practices as of late. The games go all right. I should want to clarify that because although just like Ubisoft the company, I too am a garbage person, but not in the same way.
Nah, mate, nice you're selling yourself short. But yeah, the company a little bit garbage at points.
Yeah.
So they had their conference. We're going to talk through all the things that we saw, the things we liked, the things that we didn't. We'll kind of go beat for beat and then probably visit the games that they didn't show in any way, shape or form a little bit later on. They kick things off with a fairly lengthy presentation dedicated to Rainbow Six Extraction, as it's now known, not Quarantine. Of course, they needed to rename that because there's an ugly stigma attached to that. What do you think of what you saw?
I like it a lot, actually. So, like, for me, one of the biggest problems that I had with Siege is the whole PvP part. The entire center point of what Siege is built on is the game.
With the game is
because
the game.
I am trash at PvP, like dead set. Like, anytime that other people's skill gets involved, I am just absolutely written off. So, and the fact I forget the walls are destructible. So I was hiding in a corner and the wall just caved and I got shanked and it was absolute chaos. But with here, it's PvE. So it's you and a group of people like using the same characters because I love the operators in Siege. Like they have such a cool range of operators and all have cool strengths and abilities. And every time I hear about a new one, I always want to go back into the game and then I get pulverized into the dirt. So I bounce out again. You know, so like we're here, I love the idea of getting to work together. I come to learn today that I think they mentioned it in the presentation as well, but I must have missed it, that this is actually set off like a small little one-off week thing that they did in Siege a while ago. Because I was watching it and I'm like, this feels like it should have been, like it was originally a zombie idea that they then shifted to aliens. But no, apparently there was a thing in Siege X amount of time ago, was something, it was called like the Chimera or something, not to be confused with Resistance.
Don't be doing that, Ubi.
Yeah.
We want Resistance back.
So yeah, so it's a pull from that idea and then expanded. So for me, I don't mind multiplayers if I'm playing with my friends, and this seems to be something that I could play with my mates, yourself included, Padge. And
oh yeah, I'll be in on this.
You know, yeah, I'm super keen.
Yeah, like you, I couldn't get into Siege for the exact same reasons. I'm shit at video games, especially competitive ones. And so, except for, you know, as you and your community know, Crash Bandicoot, the original. That's the famed stream, that one. But anyway, not great, especially in the shooter space. I'm just not that good. And
I don't have the reflexes. I got old man reflexes now.
Yeah, and I think kind of the nature of what we both do for our respective outlets too is that like we play a game for a little while, we maybe start to get decent at it, even if it's got a multiplayer. We start to get decent, and then we've been sent a new release or just a new game comes out and we move on. So maybe when that itch starts to emerge and you want to go play it again, you come back and you get your ass kicked because everyone else has just continued to get better while we've just plateaued and maybe even gotten worse. So it's kind of been, for not just Siege but heaps of other games, that's been a big issue for me. But this, it's not going to suffer from that problem at all. We can get all 3 or 4 of us plebs together and maybe Max can carry us because he's probably good.
Max is very good at shooting games. So it's true. But like the big vibes that I got from this though is it felt a lot like the Dark Zone of the Division, which obviously being massive fan of the Division 2. It's really pulling in that risk and reward, right? You know, do you push forward? You know, you've extracted all your weapons or your loot or whatever. Do you then keep pushing forward, or do you extract yourself out? And like to me, that's the big thing. And then obviously that risk and reward has a extra layer. So if your operator gets taken out in the course of battle, in the course of the excursion, they're MIA. You have to literally go back in and extract them out. And I love that because like rather than just being like, oh well, we fucked it up, that's okay, and then we'll just go at it again. Like, oh no, hopefully it makes you sort of pull your punches a little bit.
Because play a little more
I have the feeling that PvE, yeah, when it's PvE, you might get like some mild, like arcade shootery sort of vibes from it. So you might be like, I'm just gonna run through them and go to town and lose a lot of the things that make Siege unique.
Yep.
But I think putting some of like these things that would make you play a little bit more conservative might be just a smarter call.
And coming out kind of soon, September.
Yeah, man.
Which caught me
so
off
much,
guard, I
much
guess.
for the back end of the year. So I'm in.
So yeah, I'm keen on that. Another game that I saw you were kind of interested in is Rocksmith Plus. Yeah, Rocksmith Plus, the follow up to kind of Rocksmith from years ago. My first blush impression was, oh shit, they're not trying to like, okay, Guitar Hero and Rock Band are gone. They're not going to go for it all in, are they? And they're not. So
No, so
cool.
Rocksmith was always the response to Rock Band and Guitar Hero. Everyone's like, why don't you learn a new guitar? Why don't you learn a fucking real instrument? And then Rocksmith's like, okay. So they created a game that's designed around you learning a guitar for the first time. So previously it had this weird little dongle that was all kind of integrated into the console or the PC. Where here they've gone, it's a similar approach, but they've added a subscription service to it as well. So they have allegedly thousands of songs in their backlog from a wide range of artists,
including soundtracks to their own games. I saw Rayman Legends was in there, for example. The closest we got to Rayman during this conference. Damn it.
So like I like that as an idea, and I'm thinking that like maybe because I've got an old like 1961 Maton guitar, like it's this beautiful old thing. So before Gibson was able to ship to Australia, Maton made their own equivalent. So it kind of looks like an old school Gibson. It's beautiful, but it's also like really old and not it wasn't. It's not a Gibson, but it's like it's really lovely guitar, and I've always wanted to learn. But I'm a drummer. Like my ADHD brain works best with the drummer space. So I can just be like, yeah, So
I can't do any of them. So whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know what that means for me.
I would like to give it a bell, and I think maybe this could be a great little opportunity for a small little mini series to sort of go on the back of my content. Just sort of like, like we have on For the Players, which is the PlayStation podcast, for those that don't know. Part of it, we have our Get Less Fat update where we talk about our weight loss journeys, because both Max and I are on weight loss journeys. It did that, like, so how's your guitar going this week? I'm like, not much further. Yeah, I mean, like, it'd be cool to sort of have that little ongoing thing and see whether at least under a window of time I can learn a particular song or learn something like that. I thought that would be an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah, that'd be sweet, dude. I tune into the show anyway, but I'll switch on and listen to that bit. And what have I learned to play this week? I learned how to play a G.
I learned a C chord. Hey,
But it seems kind of cool, and the fact that they're going to be supporting with thousands of songs, and presumably they're going to continue to update it, like what the old game did, like what we saw from Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
Like Rock Band still release songs on a weekly basis. They're never as good as they used to be, but they are still doing it. But with that, like they're gamifying that learning experience, and once again, my brain, that works. If you gamify something, I'm suddenly more invested.
Yeah. I mean, you can use your phone as a microphone. They're adding support for different sorts of guitars as well.
So it's acoustic, it's electric and bass. So I presume that if you're electric or a bass, you probably need to have an amp nearby for the microphone to pick up. Yep. But if you own one of them, you probably have an amp anyway. So it's not as if you don't have everything that you need.
It's not a reach.
Yeah, it's 100% doable. So you just put your phone on top of the amp and then you play away and you should be all right. I love the idea because, what was that? What was that Blizzard thing? You all have phones, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
So as that integration is
Diablo Immortal.
A good way to go about it. Yeah, Diablo Immortal.
Riders Republic. I can't speak too much to it myself. Like, there was obviously a fair bit of content there. It's not really a Paul game, but I can't argue that it looks good for what it is.
It looks cool. Like, it looks as whichever the team was, they fucking were so confident that Steep was going to land, and it didn't. So they're like, shit, well, we already had a sequel planned, so let's run with it. I get, like, that's how I read it, because, like, it feels like Steep, it looks like Steep. The example I heard today was it looks like Steep and the crew mushed together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
like some of the high octane stuff in terms of, like, there's that flying...
like jetpack
thing. Then you've got skateboards. Then you've got not skateboards. Sorry, snowboards. You've got there's probably skateboards in it as well. I'm sure. Like they've got everything, which is from the manual to the high octane stuff. So lots of choice.
Yeah, and I think that's not too bad for me. I think that's a pretty good little thing. Like, I might check it out out of curiosity, but Steep wore out really, really quickly. Like, even though the entire concept is just get to the top of the hill and ride down it, which is exactly what you should be doing on a snowboard and or whatever the fucking skis. But it didn't play out that well in the game because there was no real objective, there was no real goals. It was just like go to an event and do a thing. Like there wasn't that big experience. Like, there was multiplayer things, but it didn't really have that multiplayer engagement.
Yep.
I feel. And with this is with Steep specifically, they're really channeling that competitively fun online space because they showed a screenshot, they showed some screens of 64 players in a downhill mountain bike race. Like if they can hit that kind of like Fall Guys sort of space where it's that fun, next
there might be like some
challenge,
like Last Man Standing sort of idea. If they could bake that into it as well, then you've just suddenly created yourself a battle royale concept in there as well.
Exactly. If they battle royale it, but with like extreme sports, I think that might tick a lot of boxes for people, and that may have some success.
I might actually come around if they did that.
Colourful, I think it should do well.
Yeah. The next one's kind of a very brief section here. We're going to kind of touch on.
I might win me over, I think.
Yeah. Next one we're going to kind of touch on is a brief section here with some updates from a whole bunch of different games. So, firstly, there's Rainbow Six Siege. We touched on it before when we were talking about quarantine and the fact that it's getting crossplay. Now, you're a host of a PlayStation show. I once was a host of a PlayStation show, and that's interesting because obviously we've heard through this Apple Epic thing recently that Sony is making people, like companies, pay to enable crossplay. So good on Ubisoft for stumping.
I want to clarify on that. Everyone has access to that deal. PlayStation only wants to take part in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're just
like,
they're the ones
we want that everyone has access, but they are correctly being like, what do we get out of it? That's the correct, and they're not nothing wrong.
Yeah, not going to say they're doing anything right or wrong, but that's kind of the situation we're in. So good on Ubisoft for kind of, because I could easily see why someone might get up on their high horse and say, well, the others aren't, so fuck you guys, you're out. Yeah. But they're playing ball and they want to get everyone involved, and that's great. Whether Sony's right or wrong or otherwise remains to be seen. That's subject to opinion, but Ubisoft are making sure everyone can participate, and that's cool. The other bit was a whole bunch of updates to a whole bunch of different games. So they were talking about Ghost Recon Breakpoint and the fact that there's the 20th anniversary this year.
I'm so baffled that game's still getting supported.
Ubisoft just, like, even when they put out a shit game, they keep supporting. I mean, we've seen... Which one was the dud? Was it Crew 1 or Crew 2? I think it was Crew 1, right?
Crew 1 was a dud,
like,
yeah.
That
Crew 2 did a lot well.
Got a long life of support, didn't it?
Look at For Honor. Like, For Honor isn't that crash hot, and it's in year 5, season something. Like, it's bonkers.
I think they just back themselves in to be able to make these games into something at some point, or build enough of a community to justify it. So
credit to them though. Like that means they obviously have at least some faith in their thing, because most of the companies would drop it and be like, nah, it's done. But they're like, no, we believe this can be something. We're going to support it. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Valhalla's getting a whole, like, they said it's for the first time ever in the franchise that it's going to be getting a second year of content. I'm like, bullshit, you just did it with the last game in Odyssey. But, anyway, whatever. They're also adding the Discovery mode, the one where you can kind of
tour. So they're adding that, like, museum-esque Discovery mode where we can kind of just go and piss fart around and learn things. They did it with Odyssey, they did it with Origins, which is mad. They added that they're going to go like the Viking invasion of France or something. Yeah. And there's, looks like there's going to be some Valheim-y sort of things. They're going to
looking pretty dope.
Get Norsey. This thing that baffles me about this though, right? The numbers are that only 16% of all players of Assassin's Creed Valhalla saw end credits.
I haven't.
So I haven't.
I haven't even got close.
The question is, because the game is like 70,000 hours long they told us it was shorter and then it wasn't. Like, the fuck? So my argument here is, well, end game content, fantastic for those that have finished it, but like, if no one's finishing it, where's the demand for this?
I guess the 16%, if they can squeeze the money from even half of that group, then that more than justifies itself. I guess the front end expenses have already been. They've already made their money back. Clearly.
They've made their money back, yeah.
But even of that small slice of the pie, if even half of them adopt it, that's probably a profit, I guess, or justified enough anyway.
Well, they're not building it from scratch or anything. They're just kind of adding to it. Yeah. I guess some parts are built from scratch, but there's the return on investment's probably pretty high.
And some of it's probably built on stuff that they were looking to fix up anyway. They did regularly talk about how, feedback from the communities informed us to do this, and we're going to add, one-handed swords because that's what you wanted, and all that sort of thing. So I think some of that stuff that's being baked into what they're going to roll out in this second season is all based on community feedback, and might have been stuff that just would have been patched in at some point anyway, had it not been given a second year. So I guess when you kind of pick through the minutiae of the whole thing, you can probably eat away at the fancy claims they're making, but still quite cool. I'm keen on it.
It's once again, it's good that they're supporting things for longer.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that there's not going to be an Assassin's Creed this year, so it's kind of nice.
I'm glad they're not doing one this year. Again, this 2-year rotation is much better for the franchise and those who play it, especially since it takes 2 years to finish each game.
Yeah, or more.
What about, does Just Dance 2022 do anything for you at all?
No, not at all.
Me either.
Not at all. But I was saying in the
that guy has very pink hair.
Yeah, I was saying in the PlayStation pod today, because we recorded it for coming up on the Monday. I was like, I love that their commitment to this as well, because it is that family friendly game. It always sells well enough. It's always the loudest booth at PAX. Like, there's obviously a die-hard community for Just Dance, and it's probably mostly children, and that's not a bad thing. It's one of those circumstances of just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's the same argument that we all make about, or the people have made for years about EA or during their conferences, and it's the Madden or the NBA or whatever segment. Like, I get it. It's not for you. It's not. I mean, I love sport, but the video game adaptations are not for me. But it is for someone, and it's a lot of people, and it's the same here with Just Dance. And they did a pretty good job. I feel like they kept it fairly short and sharp, got to the point, and moved on.
Yeah, it was nice and quick, and thankfully with not being at a crowd, they didn't have a big outlandish performance or anything. So the performer that they got on the show, they are like a YouTuber and a dancer, Podrick Hall. So I'm aware of him through Queer Eye on Netflix. One of the characters, one of their coming out goals was to meet Podrick, is that they were like an inspiration from memory, and I know that there's a lot of people on YouTube's younger audience that resonate with them, and I think that's a great little connector because they're making sort of unique version of this song that looks like a unique film clip as well. So if you're a fan of them and you probably fit, then I think it's likely you would fit the demo for Just Dance. Yeah. So it's a good pairing. I don't see it as a bad thing.
I mean, I didn't know Todrick at all. I just looked at him like, that guy has very pink hair.
Yeah, Todrick, not Podrick. Cool. Podrick's the guy from Game of Thrones. My bad.
Yes. I was impressed by the pink hair. Like that had me won over straight away. So that was enough for Just Dance 2022 to get its big tick in the conference for me. They focused on some TV and film stuff. We can probably brush over that for the most part. They were promoting Mythic Quest Season 2, which they were really trying to drive home because the second season is close to wrapping up. So it's,
Mythic Quest is dope.
Get in now. I still haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I'm keen.
I watched about half of the first season because I'm a big Always Sunny fan. So Rob McElhenney's big, and like Ashley Birch is in there as well. And the main woman. Yeah, the main woman's Australian as well, so it's kind of cool little show. I highly recommend you check out because it's like it really kind of hits that real kind of what's the one I'm looking for? Like the game director that's all like full of himself, and like they are the auteur. The auteur like really nails that auteur delivery. You
should have just said the Kojima, but
I couldn't think of the word. But yeah, so like the first episode is entirely just about him. Someone recommends they should put a shovel in the game. He's like, I want to make the shovel a weapon. Like, no, the shovel is because it's an MMO, Raven's Quest, whatever. And and he's adamant that it's got to be a weapon. And he's just like, when they get like, it's just so dumb. And it's a big fan of Rob McElhenney, so it's always a win for me.
Nice. Werewolves Within do anything for you?
No, this was the weirdest shit. I didn't know it was happening, and two, I never played the game. I know it originally was a board game, I think.
Was it?
Then it was a VR. Yeah. It was a board game, and then it became a VR game. And then now it's a movie. So it's probably one of the weirdest properties I've ever thinking to becoming a movie. Very similar to like when they were like, "Hey, Space Invaders movie." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like it's that same sort of energy for me. And
But I looked at it and I thought it was kind of cool.
It didn't.
Like it could work. It doesn't have the cachet that like say Yeah, and it wasn't in this conference, but like with the Netflix Geek Week stuff, we saw that Splinter Cell was getting an adaptation there. The closest we got to Splinter Cell this week. Like that looked, that looked cool, but that obviously speaks to me because I'm a fan of the franchise and the game. This I don't have that connection with, but as a film, I'm wondering if it could maybe work.
I think it could. I think there might be something there. But yeah, it's just also that weird line. Like, okay, well,
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm with you. It could go either way.
It seemed riddled with that weird kind of humor that I think's the younger generation's humor.
Yeah,
and that's how I know I'm getting old.
So it may hit for you saying that did age me a little bit there. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
As we get to the end here, we've got kind of three of their bigger hitters, I guess, from the conference that we're going to focus on. The first is a known commodity. It's Far Cry 6. They showed a cutscene there that showed, I can't remember the actual player character, but Giancarlo Esposito's character making his way onto a boat that was clearly trying to escape. What was the island's name again?
Yara.
Yara, that's right. They're trying to escape Yara. And then you realize his son, or what we believe to be his son, is kind of there in the back of the boat, and they're trying to set up how intimidating that character is, and really kind of build him up as this big, looming, constantly watching figure, which was kind of cool. But I don't know about you, the thing that kind of excited me the most about what they showed was actually what they outlined for the season pass.
Yeah. So first of all, one thing I don't think is it just me, or does the game look a little bit not awesome?
Yeah, visually it doesn't look hot.
No, it doesn't look good. Like it looks fine, but it's just kind of like, oof.
No,
like you and I have just played Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
And we look at this and go, ooh.
Now they are obviously very different, mate. But yeah, knowing that it's coming to next gen, I look at it and I go, this seems to be a PS4 game or Xbox One game that you've just saved .ps5 or .xsx or something like that to say that you've got the next gen version, but it doesn't look the part.
No, not at all. But yeah, as I said, the season pass looks cool. So they've essentially set up the idea of this void where all the villains of the past, so your Pagan Mints, your Joseph Seeds, and your Vas, like they get transported into this, and we get to play as the bad guys.
It looked kind of cool. Like they didn't show much.
Gimme.
You're keen?
Yeah.
Is it like a?
I'm always a sucker for Far Cry though.
Is it like a co-op adventure, like, or is it like that's one thing I'm not super clear on? Like, how are we playing this thing?
I think it's just DLC. I don't think it's connected to the main game at all. It's just kind of cool little DLC. In the same way that because Blood Dragon comes bundled in with this as well, and I think it might be that same level of silly. So let's look at an alternate story where you get to play as Vast for a little while. And,
that'd be kind of cool.
Paying men, yeah.
I did notice to your point about Blood Dragon that they just said it's Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. They didn't say remastered or anything like that. Now maybe they don't have to necessarily, but it was something like it did stand out is that they didn't outline that this was a remaster or something like that. And you don't necessarily need to. The way that visual style of that game worked, or that DLC kind of worked, is it going to be the biggest beneficiary? Maybe not.
But knowing that X-Men was with Far Cry 5 that they released the remastered, remastered version of Far Cry 3, so at least they have put the effort in the past. But
yeah, it's an interesting one. But I mean, you and I are both keen on the Far Cry as a franchise,
always.
And I'm keen to see what 6 is like. I hope it's better than 5.
I like 5,
but I don't know. I feel like it was still a backward step. Would you agree?
I think 4 was the backward step. I'm playing 4 now for the first time. I'm like,
oh really?
Yeah,
it's interesting. We'll have to discuss this at some other point.
Well, I have to finish 4 first before I make that.
Well, there's that too. Yeah. 2 games to go. We've got Mario and Rabbids. What is it called? Sparks of Hope. Nintendo leaked it the night before. Unfortunately, that is the biggest surprise of the whole thing. I think to me that Nintendo themselves directly leaked something. It's not some insider. It's not Ubisoft screwing up like normal. It's not Jason Schreier reporting on the next.
It's not someone on a train with a laptop because we're all in quarantine, so we're in lockdown. So
yeah, Nintendo posted on their site officially, and they just clearly scheduled it to go up too early. But
yeah, I think they bug it up a time zone, and I think it's Nintendo they're big protectors of their own properties, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're like, well, we want to make the call.
Yeah. What'd you think of what you saw? Did you play Kingdom Battle?
I did, and I really enjoyed Kingdom Battle. I never finished it though. I ended up because another game came along, so I lent the card to a friend of mine, and I've never got it back. So
It's a shame.
I'm gonna have to either buy it again, because I'm gonna want to play it because I really really enjoyed it.
It
But,
goes cheap on the eShop all the time. So
ooh, all right,
yeah.
done. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. I'm like, yeah, give me more of that because like that was such a surprise for me in the way that I was like, well, this is like a Mario turn-based like strategy game, like that
like
doesn't
an XCOM
seem...
game, yeah.
Yeah, and then I played it. I'm like, this is dope. I'm really digging this.
It'd be a weird one to actually see because I think, like, and you mentioned your surprise over the whole thing. I think a lot of people were surprised at first because you might remember before the first game was actually officially announced, there was a whole bunch of documents that were leaked. It was like a whole internal presentation. It was like a PowerPoint or something, I guess, that was kind of leaked, and it spilled the beans on the game, and it didn't read very well at all. And so everyone had kind of built up this expectation of what the game is. And while the initial trailer at E3 and Davide Soliani crying on stage after Miyamoto's introduced him and all that stuff, like, it was all very nice, I think there was still this layer of skepticism about the whole game. And then it came out and it was awesome. Whereas here, now going into this sequel, no, there's none of that cynicism at all here. And a lot of people off the back of the first one said it's kind of XCOM light. Are people still going to want it to be XCOM light, or are they going to be looking for that difficulty just ratchet up a little bit? Now that it's established, do we take it further, or are we still looking to keep it accessible? Because it is Nintendo at the end of the day.
I do wonder what the expectation will come into this. Like, I think one of the big reasons that the last game worked so well was because everyone's like, I don't know what this is. And then it turns out to be amazing because the bar is so low because the bar didn't exist. Where here, the bar is there and the bar is high. And I don't know how they're going to follow that up because, like, as far as I know, like, even XCOM 2 felt like XCOM.
Yeah.
XCOM 3, I don't remember. But, like, they did, like, it's just
Chimera
more of
Squad.
the same. There's only
Chimera
so
Squad,
much you can do in a... Yeah, there you go. They can only do so much with that style of game. So I do wonder whether they're going to do it at Final Fantasy and, like, pivot some real-time action in there, like...
It looked like it a little bit more in the trailer. Like, they didn't show any combat at all that I recall.
Yeah.
That was just kind of was showing the characters running around. The environments didn't look necessarily the best for that style of combat. So who knows? I guess it could be kind of cool. And the last game, the one that I don't think, and we've discussed this before we started recording, nobody was really asking for. And now that's been revealed, I'm still not sure if people are wanting it, but it was clearly meant to be their big hitter. Avatar, not The Last Airbender, the movie franchise, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. What did you make of what you saw?
Who is this for? Like, the Avatar, the movie was average. The movie itself sold as well as it did based on the pure novelty of the tech of the 3D space. If you watch that movie now without it, you come to learn it's a pretty fucking garbage version of Pocahontas. Like, it's not a very good movie at all. So why is this a thing? And, like, granted, that was like 9 years ago. That franchise, it's not been, we've been littered with sequels since then. Like, James Cameron is, at minimum. Like, it's been a long time. Like, James Cameron has been...
No, I just felt old. That was me aging myself then. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, because it was like one of my early times at uni. I remember going with my uncle.
Yeah, right.
So I look at it and I go, well, the sequel's in production hell, or he's just kind of being so nitpicky about it. So any staying power the franchise had is gone. Yeah. And I'm sorry, the game isn't going to fill that because A, the story itself isn't that exciting. 2, they have those weird little hair tail things that, like, they used to, like, fuck horses and each other with, you know what I mean? It's like, there's, like...
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, like, unless I can do that in the game, I'm not going to care. I really don't understand. Like, yeah, they back-ended it with, like, look at this, and I just can't see... I can't see this going well anyway, in any way at all.
Visually, it looked great. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But as did the movie. But the movie was all kind of style over substance in the eyes of most of us. My hope when it comes to this game, and I'm not a bit like you, Avatar the movie was just a bit and that was about it. I was blown away by the tech, but that was the extent of it. My hope is that this game if you're able to mentally separate it from the film franchise, and the original movie was a bit meh, the follow-ups, isn't it meant to be a trilogy, just kind of stuck in development hell, as you mentioned, that the game itself on its own might still be fantastic? That's my hope.
Like, there's a thing. Like, so use Avengers as an example, right? It was pulled in on its franchise. Like, the entire selling point of this game right now is its franchise.
Yeah.
It's like,
so
it's an
never gonna light it
Avatar
up.
game.
Yeah, it's never going to light it up sales-wise like other adaptations, but maybe the
Look,
quality of the
don't
game
get
can
me
still
wrong.
be something.
It may, the gameplay might come through on the back end and it might be this excellently well-played game, but like, no one's going to care.
Yeah.
And that's the
that is a
big hurdle.
thing. Maybe
So, like,
maybe James Cameron banked it all himself.
He may have. Like, my question is, like, will this game bomb? Probably. But, like, how do you define it? Like, I said, I don't think this game is going to make its money back. Whatever the fuck it cost, it's not making it back.
Yeah.
Because
I think you're right on that part.
Avengers still being shit it didn't make
it took a long time.
Its money back. But I mean, like, it was able to sell as much as it did based on its name recognition alone.
Yep.
It didn't make all its money back because they marketed that game up to shit. But that the copies that they moved were based on name alone. Here, they're not going to be able to back up with the name. They may not even be able to back up with the gameplay. I'm just not.
Yeah, the IP's not going to do it. Yeah, I'm with you. So quickly, as we wrap things up, because that's everything that they showed at the conference, I guess we can probably very quickly talk about some of the games they didn't show. Beyond Good and Evil 2, I don't know about you.
They mentioned before it wasn't going to happen. I'm like, why? Then why announce that 11 years ago, whatever it was, you know?
Yeah, it's been
Feels
way
like
too long. What was the Roller Champions? That was probably the one that surprised me that didn't show.
Oh, yeah.
The kind of skate, well, not skate, like not a skate is in skateboarding, like a rollerblading, roller derby thing. Like, people played that at PAX 2 years ago, like before the pandemic, and had really, really good things to say about it. So I'm surprised the thing's not ready yet.
What about that?
There's of course Splinter Cell. Everyone's bitching and moaning, myself included, about the lack of Splinter Cell. But is there anything else that you're expecting to see?
Skull and Bones is forever fucked.
Prince of Persia's in hell.
Prince of Persia, I think they pretty much implied that it's still rooted, so they weren't going to bring it in. I don't know. Like, I said, Rayman's still not around. Like, who knows, man? Like, the staples are hit. You know, you got your Assassins, you got your Far Cry. You know, you kind of hit everything that you expect them to. Like Just Dance, of course.
Yeah. It was safe, I guess. Overall.
Yeah, it ticked all the boxes. It was safe. It wasn't incredibly overwhelmingly brilliant. It was fine.
Do you think it can ever be brilliant again, a Ubisoft E3 thing, simply because they've been doing Ubi Forwards now on an almost quarterly, give or take basis? The fact that they're kind of shooting their shot multiple times a year now, as opposed to saving it all for one big thing and having that massive surprise at the end that's not Avatar.
I think the one big shot's dead. In general, I do really think that they will not be doing no company will do a one big shot everything at E3 again.
That's fair.
Even though E3 is back, they're not going to do it. So we may not get that big gangbuster moment. I think they'll try, and they tried, with Avatar, but I don't know, man. Like, once again, like, see, where we're at right now, it's what time is it? It is currently 8:14 on Sunday the 13th. We haven't seen Microsoft. We haven't seen Bethesda take
so
Square Enix, whatever.
Say,
As of right now, this E3 is being kind of, you know what I mean? There's been nothing amazing to come out of it. And I do think that part of what you're saying is that constant delivery throughout the year has tainted the power of E3. And so will we ever see something this big from Ubisoft? No. Will we ever see something this big, something big again from anyone else? No. Because, like, you can control the message. Like, until everyone's back in a room, which ain't going to happen for a while.
At least 12 months. For an E3.
At least 12 months. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if next E3 is online again, because it's fucking cheaper is the big one. So I'm not
the one that could possibly do that in my eyes.
This,
The one that could possibly do that in my eyes is still Xbox, because they're one of the very few companies that aren't having like a state of play or a Nintendo Direct style thing.
Well, they tried, remember, with the They tried to do some Xbox events and they didn't land.
Well, they had those XO things, but that was kind of their
Yeah.
take on PlayStation experience, the end of year sort of celebration.
Yeah, but then they would also have like a little keynote presentation. They were supposed to show some things, but they all kind of came out. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I think
true.
Halo Infinite was shown off in one of them as well, and everyone went, "Ooh."
Oh, that was their big Series X reveal last year. So
Oh,
I
good.
guess a little bit different. It was part of that console reveal, but still, I do think you're right. Kind of generally speaking, that I don't think we're going to see many of those sort of really big balls to the wall. We're hitting you over and over and over again from start to finish sort of conferences, possibly ever again. And I think I'm still fine with that, given the nature of how the alternative at the moment. So Betson, thanks.
As I said, like
Gone.
I said, I've not had to do shit this year for E3, and it's been amazing. Like, and I don't feel I've missed out. I don't feel that I've like woken up going, oh, well, I wish I watched that live. And I think Ubisoft was that exact. You know, it was like 5 a.m. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I'll check the press releases when I wake up.
That's exactly what I did.
Thanks for coming on board, mate, and sharing all your thoughts on this conference.
So much for
There's going to be a whole lot more of these on the Play 2 YouTube channel over the coming days. We've got Xbox, we've got Square Enix, we've got Nintendo, we've got Take-Two, we've got God knows what else, because I'm sure there's more and I can't think of them. Everyone and their dog is having a conference this year. Maybe someone will bring up their dog. Didn't John Bernthal do it at Ubisoft a couple of years ago?
He did.
For Breakpoint? Yeah, he did. That was a nice segue, me. So, Betson, where can people go to catch up with you and everything you do?
Yeah, man. So, like, if you like Pad, you've seen him. You'll be seeing him around Oz parts recently. He's been incredibly kind in sharing his preview access with the likes of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade over on my PlayStation podcast, which is called For the Players. The Pop C PlayStation Pod. It comes out every Monday morning, 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on your YouTubes. So that's the weekly PlayStation thing where we kind of cover everything PlayStation and everything that involves it. So even this week in E3, we're going to cover the Microsoft conference from a PlayStation perspective.
Nice.
We're discussing about how we want them. We want to be scared at the end of it. Like, we're not PlayStation fanboys by any sense, but we want at the end of that conference to be like, PlayStation are kind of fucked.
Yeah,
That's
what are you
what
gonna
I
do?
want to end that.
How are you going to match this? It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, because for me, a good PlayStation is a competitive PlayStation, and they are resting very heavily on the confidence that they just destroyed them last generation. I want to see them get trounced. I want to see them get blown out of the water tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good to me. For you specifically, where people go to catch up with you?
If you want to hear my dumb thoughts on anything and wrestling, mostly on Twitter at HaggardMC, HAGGARDMC. I'm always bullshitting on there. Getting pretty good at the Twitters, I think. No.
Oh no, you're doing some good shit on Twitter. But the show, make sure to go check out the show, as well as wrestling as well. Like you've got your PlayStation, you've got your wrestling. You're doing awesome stuff there with both of them.
Yeah, so it's the pop culturist, which we have our pillars of our 4 P's of the pop culture, which is personalities, PlayStation, pro wrestling, and the pop culturist obviously being the other P.
We'll just bring me on board and we'll make that 4th P, Paul.
Yeah, yeah. Personalities, PlayStation, pro wrestling, and Paul James, or Play It Too, even. Why not?
Yeah, Play It. Yeah, no. So on the Player 2 side, make sure to visit the website player2.net.au. We've got the Season of Gaming Hub, because we're not suckers and calling it Summer of Gaming, because it's not fucking summer here.
Yeah.
Arseholes in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, chilly as fuck Game Fest, what it should be called.
Winter Games Fest. Jeff Keighley. It's just like what Xbox used to do with the Summer of Arcade, and they at least pivoted and called it Winter of Arcade, but now they're all arrogant pricks up there and don't want to even think of the rest of us. Anyway, there's the Season of Gaming Hub up there. We've got E3 stuff. We've got Summer Games Fest stuff. There's a whole bunch of other bits and pieces that'll undoubtedly go on when State of Plays and those sort of things inevitably pop up, because PlayStation's going to need to respond to whatever Xbox does. That'll appear there as well, so go check all that out. But Betson, thanks for coming aboard and sharing all your thoughts, mate.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you for the next one of these dedicated to, I don't know, fucking Xbox.